This is the panel as the Edmonton Oilers began last week's road trip with a loss in LA before rattling off 3 consecutive victories as they return home to Rogers Place ice. You know Jack Michaels and Bob Stauffer, a pair of voices of the Edmonton Oilers. And Jack, let's talk about depth scoring. In the last 3 victories, the Oilers had 9 different goal scorers, including 6 on Friday against San Jose. They're getting more contributions throughout the lineup.
Well, they are, and I think it's one thing when it pays off in victories over San Jose and Anaheim. There wasn't much resistance there, and those are quality wins over a division rival on the road, but ultimately there's bigger tests to be had, and that arrived on Saturday in Vegas on the second of a back-to-back against the Pacific Division leading Golden Knights, and again, the depth scoring did make a difference in that game. In fact, you look at that game, Klim Kostin once again with a game winner. I mean, he goes back-to-back game winners. Now, one unconventionally against San Jose and one where it really doesn't matter, but then one where it does matter. And they were able to keep separation against a good Golden Knights hockey club, got a solid goaltending performance, got valuable. I mean, you mentioned depth scoring. How about depth contributions? I mean, down the lineup, Philip Broberg, Vinny Desharnais played exceptionally well for the Edmonton Oilers on that road trip, gained confidence, and moving forward, that's tremendous. I mean, I think that when you get those pieces involved, not only in your garden variety wins, but in a kind of a signature win at Vegas, where Jack Campbell delivers, and for the second time this season beats a legitimate Stanley Cup contender on the road. His other main win, I would say, would be in Tampa, one of the opponents this week. I mean, that makes a huge difference for this club, confidence-wise, moving forward, that it doesn't always have to be the top 2 players in the league that carry this team to victory.
You talked about Jack Campbell, and Bob, it's really new year, new Jack in goal for the Oilers. 4 starts, 4 straight wins in those starts. We're really seeing the goaltender that Ken Holland thought he was signing back in the offseason.
And new equipment as well, and he's sort of modernized. He'd use, let's not use the term outdated, but he hadn't had an equipment change for a while, and I'm a horrible golfer, but to use a sort of a golfing comparison, there's always, new sort of technology that helps improve people's game, and I think you can extend that metaphor.
Are you saying he was using Persimmon Woods?
Right. Anyhow, the reality is that's been part of it, and I think that the Oilers are in a good position here carrying forward in goal, just because we are. Look, you invested 5 times 5 in the guy. The players are super excited, the key players, to get him in the off season, and I think we're starting to see some of that come to fruition. And frankly, I expect to continue ongoing upward movement in terms of Jack Campbell from a save percentage. Just to further quantify what Jack was saying, I mean, the reality is the Oilers, many hands makes light work. You look at the defense right now and going with the 7D and the different dimension that Desharnais has brought in, but Philip Broberg is starting to skate again and be more assertive, and at times he's been frankly, if I'm an Oilers coach, if I'm watching him and Bouchard playing together, Broberg's been sort of the more assertive of those 2 guys on defense, and so that bodes well. And as Jack alluded to, the Kostin story has become, I mean, we wake up today and Klim Kostin has more goals than Jonathan Huberdeau. Yeah. Think about that for a second. So it's been a great, and they're all even strength. So I think that in order for Edmonton to make a continued push, they're going to need to have a lot of contributions from numerous players in the roster.
The Oilers are certainly getting a jolt from a variety of players, but also expected to get another jolt with the imminent return of Evander Kane, Jack.
Well, and Bob mentioned Klim Kostin. I mean, to be honest with you, over the last couple of weeks, Klim Kostin has channeled his inner version of Evander Kane. He's basically been Evander Kane light. He's fought 2 of the toughest guys in the league in Brendan Lemieux and Zach Kassian. He's stood up for his teammates on a number of occasions, including in San Jose when there was a little extra pop. He rushed right over. Okay, you want a piece of Dylan Holloway? Here I am. I'm not unafraid. And then the contributions where, Bob put out something yesterday on social media that over the last 9 games, no one has more goals on the Oiler roster, including Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, than Klim Kostin. I mean, so he's become almost an instant folk hero. Now you've got the actual Evander Kane, and there's going to be some mythology regarding this recovery. I mean, I'm telling you what, if he's in the lineup this week, it's one of the quick. He kind of kiddingly said to me a couple weeks ago, "Hey, don't underestimate me. I'm a fast healer," and I kind of was like, look, I mean, I was in Tampa. I mean, Bob and I shut up for about 5 minutes when that happened. I mean, even Bob was freaked out, and he's seen everything. And yet, you know, if he's able to come back, that's going to be another, not only jolt for the club from a quantifiable perspective, but it's a lift in the dressing room. It adds a little extra juice. I mean, Oilers play 4 of the next 5 at home. That's going to reverberate through the crowd, and that's where Edmonton has to take the next step in terms of solidifying its play at home. They've been one of the best road clubs in the league the entire year. Now it's time to start accumulating some victories and some momentum at home. Let's not forget, last year the Oilers went 15-0-1 in their final 16 at home. They've got to get back to making Rogers Place an extremely difficult place to play.
And how do they bring that road game home, Bob? Because they're 7-1-1 in their last 9 away from Rogers Place.
They copy the recipe from what gives them success on the road, which is a more simple, effective game. I think they play more of a straight game. They manage the puck better when they're on the road. And I am with Jack. Like, there's no way to underscore the importance of the imminent return of Evander Kane. The guy had 35 goals in 58 games last year for the Oilers. I mean, between the regular season and the playoffs, and he's functional toughness in the Oilers' top 6. And Costin isn't going anywhere, by the way. He's staying in the lineup, and they can probably continue to play Nugent Hopkins with Costin and Janmark. And Janmark's been arguably their best defensive forward here. But I think we saw some fine things in the final. Actually, it started with how, things got a little nasty against LA, and they had some guys take the fight. You got to like that. And I think that sort of segued itself into, a pretty dominant performance early. Like, Anaheim's in a tough spot. San Jose hasn't been playing as bad as Anaheim, but the Oilers walloped them. And then they were good early against Vegas. And 100%, they had good starts in all 3 of those games to close out the road trip. They got to start having better starts here and continuing the starts, because they've had multiple goal leads that they've let fritter away here at Rogers Place.
I don't know how many minutes we're into this panel, and we'll wrap up right away here, but are we getting used to the brilliance of Connor McDavid? I mean, we have yet to talk about the incredible season that 97 is. Are we just getting used to it?
Well, look, he's had a fabulous year, and so has Leon Draisaitl, but I think the story in recent weeks is the emergence of depth players. I mean, Bob mentioned Matthias Janmark. Look, for years, the Oilers have run into hockey clubs with depth lines that can play against anyone. I mean, Vegas is a perfect example. For years, Edmonton has seen some of its top players negated by the likes of a Ryan Carpenter, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, Will Carrier, guys that thrive in that bottom 6 role. Cizikas, Martin, and Clutterbuck for so many years on Long Island. Now Edmonton has, I believe, the makings of a line that can really present some matchup problems, and that's the Nugent Hopkins, Janmark, Costin line. A line that certainly has enough skill to match up with anyone, but also a line with a little jam to it, and especially when Evander Kane comes back, you free up McDavid and Draisaitl and can exploit those matchups further. So I think there are the seeds of a kind of depth line, a go-to line, if you will. Because remember, Edmonton went away from it. They went back to it, and boom, instant success. So I'm just saying the depth has been the story. McDavid and Draisaitl have been fantastic. You're right. Perhaps I am guilty of taking them for granted.
I mean, he's on pace for 152
but so be it.
points. It's
I mean, that's
unbelievable.
the story in the last couple weeks, and their reemergence is they are getting contributions from up and down the lineup. And again, not just up front, on defense. And as Bob said, Jack Campbell has been playing just as well as Stuart Skinner the last 3 weeks now.
The one thing I will say about Connor McDavid is right now he has a marginally better, goals for versus goals against differential 5-on-5. I will predict the rest of this way carrying forward. What do we got left? 37 games or so?
Yeah.
Final 37 games. I'd be surprised if Connor did not end up plus 10 in goal differential at 5-on-5. I think the Oilers, one of the areas you're going to see Edmonton improve is their 5-on-5 play. They did in the second. Actually, the last 3 years.
5-on-5 save percentage.
Yes, and so as a result, you're going to see a better goal differential carrying forward.
And if there's one thing that Connor McDavid cares about, it's not the stats, it's W's only. And the Oilers look for their 4th consecutive victory as they host the Seattle Kraken on Tuesday night.